The Laura Geller Holiday Bake Starter Kit claims to be everything you need for a full face, but does this palette really do it all? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Marie. I created Curious Beauty to test luxury makeup and skincare on mature skin and see what truly works. Today we are going all in on Laura Geller to see if one palette really does it all and how does it compare to the Cult Classics kit. Let's take a look at what comes in the Laura Geller Holiday Baked Starter Kit. First of all is this palette called Best of the Best, and I received it in the shade Tuscan Dreams. The Baked Starter Kit I selected was in the shade Light, so I'm guessing that this palette might come in a different shade depending on which of the foundations you go for. I picked Light, and that means that I got the Baked, Balance and Brighten powder foundation in the shade Light. So these are the makeup items that I received as part. So these are the makeup items that I received as part of this package. But in addition to that, you do also get some brushes. So you get a Laura Geller retractable kabuki brush, and you also get this Laura Geller dual-ended cheek and eyeshadow brush. So I think the idea behind this palette is that you have everything you need to get you started. And in fact, on the back of the Best of the Best, it says, "When I was designing this, I wanted every woman to have their makeup bag in one palette without all the bulk." So I think that is the idea here. So we even have a nice mirror in the lid. And then in the palette I have a bronzer here in the shade Roman Holiday, a highlighter in French Vanilla, I have a blush in Starfish Island, funny name, and then I have 6 eyeshadows in Sabia, Terrosa, Gusto, Alba, Perla and Luna. There is a plastic cover over the top of the makeup, which is fantastic because it means it reaches you in good condition. But I have seen some people struggle to get this out online. Luckily I have a long nail here, so I have just jammed my nail down the side and it's lifted out just like that. So I don't know if now you can maybe see the shades here a little bit better. I'm not sure if they're being washed out a little bit by the lighting. And then let us take a look at the Baked, Balance and Brighten in the shade Light. I have previously demoed the Laura Geller Cult Classics Full Face Kit. And this is the foundation that I received in that package and demoed in that video. But I have got this one in a different shade to compare. So last time I went with the shade Fair, and this time I've gone with the shade Light, and I believe Light is lighter than Fair, but actually when you compare them they do look very, very similar. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to do as well, to compare the colour difference between Light and Fair. So we have our powder foundation here, which I'll just open up so you can take a look at that. What I like about these is this kind of marbling effect that Laura Geller has done on the foundations. So you get some different shades mixed into the foundation, which I think is helpful in making it look kind of really natural and not entirely flat, which is good. So that is the shade Light. And let us just take a quick look at these brushes before we get going with the makeup. So this is the Kabuki brush. I did receive a Kabuki brush in the Cult Classics Full Face Kit as well. It was a different one actually. So this is a white packaged one. I dare say it is the same. I dare say it's the same brush. This is the Kabuki brush she provides to use with the powder foundation. So I have used her powder foundations with my own brushes, but I guess because we are trialling the kits, I will use this one today. And I understand there are, if you want a kind of more coverage, you can leave this up like that, so you have a more dense brush, or if you want a lighter coverage, you can pop it down to the bottom and then you have a sort of a slightly less dense brush. It does feel very soft actually, so I'm interested to give this another go. I wasn't overly keen with the Kabuki brush last time I used it because I just didn't think it was picking up enough product, but I am willing to give that another shot. So let us put that aside and we will open this other brush that came in the kit, and this is a dual-ended cheek and eyeshadow brush. So this is a new brush for me, as this one didn't come in the last kit. And it says that the fluffy powder brush on top here is for adding the perfect pop of blush, bronzer or highlighter to your cheek, along with setting powders. So this is a kind of a multi-use brush for bronze, blush, highlighter, powder, whatever you want. Probably not all at all at once though. And then you can flip it over to use this eyeshadow brush for blending and shading, it says. And they do feel quite soft and nice actually. So we will give those a go as well. So the one thing that came in the Cult Classics kit was a primer. The Laura Geller Spackle primer came in the other kit, but I noticed that there isn't any primer in this new kit, so I'm going to go ahead and use the foundation without the primer, and we'll just see how that goes. Right, so let's get stuck in with this Kabuki brush and our Baked Balance and Brighten in the shade Light. Okay, let me just demo the brush. So it's all the way fully extended down, and let's pop it on here. The powder does kind of like fly off into the air, which is sort of interesting, isn't it? But let's see if we dab that on here. I don't know if you can see, it's starting to pick up some foundation on there. It looks very yellow on the brush. It doesn't look yellow in the pot, but there are some sort of gold speckles in it there, so I wonder if that's what's reflecting from the lights. But anyway, let's make a start with our powder foundation base. The powder is already going everywhere, so just be conscious that it's a little bit messy, this powder. It is kind of like flying off and onto the table, so that's kind of interesting. I'm going to start at the middle and just kind of build it up around my nose, and then work my way kind of outwards. So I wonder if you can see that the colour building up around the centre of my face is quite strong, and that's what I found with the other kit. The other powder foundation was actually in a darker shade than this one, but still this is building up a lot of kind of quite a dark colour down the middle of my face here. I think there is one lighter shade. It's called Porcelain or something. Actually, I will stick a few images up on the screen now, illustrating some of the different shades and the contents of the packages from the Laura Geller website, so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. But this is going on quite dark again, and that's kind of the experience I had last time. I think probably because from experience I've learned that it's fairly okay to be quite heavy-handed with this powder foundation. It's not like a regular foundation where you have to kind of be careful not to put too much on. This seems to just need to go on and on and on, basically until you are kind of happy with the coverage you've got. I don't think it ever looks like you've got too much on. I haven't ever thought that. I haven't ever thought, oh my goodness, I've put too much of this powder on. I think the nature of it being a powder and the way that it layers up means that you just don't find yourself in a situation with too much on. And so that's probably quite a good thing if you're not overly confident with foundations and maybe you've got a heavy hand and just want to be able to kind of chuck it on and trust that it's going to look okay. I think that's probably one of the big selling points with Laura Geller foundations, is that they are just easy. They just kind of go on. I'm just kind of like shoveling it on quite a lot, and I'm going to kind of buff it all in a moment to make sure that it's kind of evenly distributed. But I think it's just straightforward and easy. I don't think there's a lot of skill required to make Laura Geller foundations look kind of good. So because this is a definitely slightly darker shade than my natural skin tone, I just want to go around the edges, buffing it right into my hairline to make sure that there isn't a telltale white mark anywhere. This has definitely darkened up my skin, but I'm not mad at it. I kind of like it. Actually just look like I've got a bit of a kind of a holiday tan about me. So that's, you know, really quite interesting. So the lights are washing me out a little bit, because in real life this is looking very, very kind of like tan and bronzy. I think on the camera it's looking much more pale and more like my natural skin tone. But I'm pretty happy with the colour. I'm pretty happy with the finish and the coverage. In fact, I'm very happy with the look of my skin right now. Let's move on to the other items in the kit. So let's start off with some bronzer to do a bit of facial contouring and give this blush a go. And we'll try this highlighter again. Again, last time I used the highlighter, I didn't really see a lot of effect from it. Maybe I need to be heavier handed with it. Maybe that's the whole thing with Laura Geller products, is that you can be quite heavy with it, and that's how it looks best. If I dab it in here and I just show you, it's picking up colour straight away. Yeah, she's done something with these brushes so that they pick up product, but they don't over pick it up. So I think you just can't get yourself into a situation where you've overloaded the brush, and that's really interesting, because that's clearly one of the issues that we have with other makeup brands, is this kind of risk of overloading. But let's go in with some contouring bronzer. Yeah, because I've loaded this brush up as much as I can really, but the brush just doesn't seem to be able to be overloaded, which is really interesting. I'm going to do the classic shaping contour with the bronzer around the edges of the upper face, underneath the cheekbones to create some chiseled definition here, and a little bit under the chin and jaw. Okay, let's switch over to the blush, which is in the shade Starfish Island. I love that name. Right, Starfish Island. Right, I'm going to tap the blush off because I don't want to go too mad with the blush. I'm going to use my mirror over here. But again, it isn't depositing a lot of colour at one go, is it? So it's very forgiving in terms of not allowing you to go overboard with the makeup depositing on the face. I am swirling this and swirling it, and it's just not letting me put too much on. Okay, and let's try to layer a little bit of highlight over that. I'm going to use one of my own brushes. I'm going to use this quite dense brush here. Having to blow the powder off of the palette because it is creating a lot of dust around the palette and even on my table. So just something to be conscious of. It's a little bit on the messy side. I have stamped quite a lot of that highlighter on, and it actually may have overdone it a little bit, so I'm just going to go back in with a bit more blush to try and kind of blend those in together. It's quite white, that highlighter, so it's sort of eradicated my blush a little bit on that side. I think maybe I've put a bit too much of that one on. And just be conscious that the blush is already shimmery, because I'm finding that I've got quite a lot of shimmer, and I'm not really able to tell whether it's from the blush or from the highlighter that I have just added. Let's move on to the eye shadows. So we've got 6 shades in here. I'm trying to determine if any of them are actually a matte shade. I think that Tarosa one in the middle. I think the one in the top middle is a matte, and that's really what I want to go all over the eyelid with. I have been using a lot of shimmers lately all over, and it's perhaps not the best way to go. I think it's better to start your eye off with a matte and then use a shimmer to highlight and shadow where you want, rather than the shimmer being spread around everywhere. But what I'm finding is with these palettes is that they sometimes are just full of shimmers, and then really you want to be mixing those with a matte shadow from another palette to make sure you've got that kind of light and dark, that kind of matte and shimmer contrast in your eye, so you're not all matte or all shimmer. I think the contrast of the matte base with the shimmer on top is the kind of the best look. Right, let's try and make a start with Tarosa and Gusto. I think these are matte. If they end up being shimmery, there's not much I can do about it, but they do look matte to begin with. So let's make a start on those. I have got some new Morphe brushes that I'm trying, so I hope these are going to help me to apply this nicely. Right, let's go in with the Tarosa first. Again, it doesn't seem like it's picking anything up, so right, we'll see, but it's really struggling to get any makeup out of this palette. Okay, I think that has gone on because it looks different to the other lid. I think maybe is it just because it's so finely milled you can't see it on the brushes? I'm not sure. Anyway, that is definitely something going on there, isn't it? So that Tarosa is actually a really nice base colour for my eyes anyway. I think that looks really nice. And I'm going to try and build up a little bit of definition with the shade Gusto, which I think is also a matte, but it's a kind of a dark brown matte. We'll not use so much of this. And then we'll go over the top with some shimmers to finish. So I'm really starting to understand what the selling point of Laura Geller makeup is, and I think it's just that it doesn't go on too heavy, and I think that's why it works for mature skins, because she's formulated it all in such a way that you just can't overdo it. You will occasionally see in one of my videos I have overdone the makeup application because perhaps the pigment has gone on really strongly, and it sort of then is kind of competing with my colouring a little bit. Whereas this, I think, is really delicate and you can just build it up as you go along. Okay, so I have added a darker brown on top here to try and add a bit of dimension, and then I'm actually going to go in with my finger for some of these more shimmery shades. Right, so let's go with there's a light pink Alba. I'm going to try and use that one in the centre of my eyelid. Oh yeah, it's quite shimmery. Quite pearlescent, perhaps, is a better word for these. sort of pearlescent rather than a classic shimmer. There is also a light ivory perler, which I'm going to try and dab in the... Oh, rather a lot went on. See, there's a lot more going on when you use your finger than when you use a brush, it seems. Okay, and let's use the darker shade Luna in the outer corner. Okay, so there we have everything that we were able to do with the baked get the name right, Holiday Baked Starter Kit. And we have most of our face done. We have our base, we have our blush, bronzer and highlighter, and we have a subtle kind of eyeshadow. That has given us most of our face, but clearly that has not given us the full story. So I'm going to supplement this look now with some other items from Laura Geller. Some items maybe I've featured in previous videos, but I have got a couple of new items. So I'm going to start with some new items. First one being a gel eyeliner kit. I actually bought this recently. It is a 5-piece gel eyeliner set, and it appealed to me because it has 5 different colours in here, and that is fantastic because I'm not a big lover of black eyeliner, so I like to try different colours. So let us see if we have got we've got a dark brown, so I think I'm going to give the dark brown a go. Let's see, these feel very thin, so I imagine they're going to be quite fine. Let me just swatch this on here. Okay, so I've swatched the brown gel eyeliner on my hands there, and what I'm going to do is tightline my upper lash to just give the upper lash some more definition. Okay, so that has gone on fairly smoothly, I would say. I am now going to find my Laura Geller mascara, which is from one of my previous Laura Geller videos. I have this Laura Geller Kajal Longwear mascara, and I think this is just in the shade... Oh, it's brown. It's actually in the shade brown. So let us finish up our eye look with this mascara. Here is what the wand looks like. Nice plasticky wand. I find these help you kind of control the application. Some of the fluffier ones I find it a little bit more difficult to get through my lashes. So here we are finishing this up with a brown. Oh, it's going on quite clumpy actually. Maybe that's the Kajal element of it. But I think this is pairing nicely with the eyeliner and the eye palette look we have done. Let me see if I can get these lower lashes in. I've managed to get a little bit of the mascara on those lower lashes there. And I think we just need a lip look now to finish this off. And I have also bought, I've bought the Modern Classic Waterproof Lip Liner in the shade Radiant Rose. And I have also bought Jelly Balm in the colour Figure Than Life. So let us pair these together and see how that works out. Oh, so this has got rather a thick end on it for a lip liner. I was kind of expecting a point, but you've got more of a kind of a slanting end there. Right, let's see how this works. I'm curious about it being waterproof. It's going on really nicely. And it does feel like it might stay put, so I'm hoping that waterproof means long wearing. That's a really lovely wearable colour. Right, I've just lined the outer rim of my lips. That was really nice to use and it feels like it's going to wear a long time. So let's also try this Figure Than Life Hydrating Lip Colour Jelly Balm. I'm not quite sure what these Jelly Balm products are. I haven't used this before. Looks kind of like a regular lipstick at this point, but let's give it a go and find out. That's looking really nice. It's a little bit jelly-like. It's difficult to describe what they mean by jelly-like. It's sort of not so much creamy, more sort of moist and, yeah, jelly-like, I suppose. Interesting. Gosh, I think that colour looks nice. Okay, so there we have it, actually. I'm always a little bit blown away by just how good the Laura Geller makeup looks. And I think today has exceeded my expectations. What do you think of this look and what do you think of Laura Geller makeup? Let me know down in the comments. I'm a little bit blown away by this. I think it looks fantastic. Thank you so much for watching my Laura Geller video today. Please take a look at some of my other videos. I will link them up here in the corner and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.